Is A Quiet Place worthy of being a new horror franchise? Hello there, everybody. I'm Anaji, and this is FMV Review. So, Quiet Place Part 2 synopsis. Try my best not to give away too many spoilers, but hey, if you haven't seen the first movie, I'm gonna have to spoil a little bit of that. So if you don't want to hear any of that, then go ahead and exit this way. Put this in the watch later category. Come back to it after you. Come on now, I need them views. Come on now. But basically, yeah, so you were following the family from the first film after the tragic events that happened at the end of the last film as they basically are having to leave their home. They run into a new survivor, and basically they set off on this journey where their means with which they found to fight back these creatures, they're trying to spread it to the rest of humanity so that way humanity stands a chance from these like just vicious monsters. Y'all remember in the first movie when this thing Falcon punched their son at the beginning? That was wild. Okay, let's get into it. All right. I think John Krasinski is a pretty solid director. Like, who knew the dude from The Office would actually turn out to be a pretty solid director? There was definitely moments watching this film that I definitely felt some sort of Spielbergian vibes. I don't think he's quite on that level, but I was feeling that sort of quality. Very, very steady camera work, very visual. Like this movie uses a lot of like visual storytelling because of the nature of the premise where they have to be very quiet. You have to use a lot of visual storytelling, and I think that's actually something that has been missing from a lot of films. Is I think sometimes films get way too caught up in the because characters can talk and it's such an easy way to convey information. They sometimes forget that hey, it's a movie, it's a visual medium. Sometimes it's better to just show me with the camera, and this movie definitely benefits from using that kind of style, especially because this movie has some really solid suspense sequences. I mean, I definitely had some moments where I was getting on the edge of my seat a little bit because of the consequences for these characters messing up, especially when you're hearing noises. They've done a pretty good job of like if these monsters hear you because you made a noise, you're pretty much done for. So they do some pretty good like solid suspense sequences, especially in the beginning of the movie. I would especially say that sequence is pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. I have to also say the sound design. I watch a lot of horror movies, and there's certain tricks that horror movies like to use. Not to say that this movie doesn't do it, but I think one of the benefits this movie has is because of the premise, because they can't be very loud. This movie will sometimes have it where it's okay being really quiet and then a loud bang happens, which don't get me wrong, a lot of horror movies do that, but the way this movie does it at times is pretty effective. I'm not gonna lie, it had me had me jumping a couple times. But I'm about to get into what I think, even though I think this is a solid movie, something that I think they maybe need to do if they're going to continue making sequels to this for this franchise. But before I do that, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. All right, so I want to say, first of all, the main cast of this movie is really good, right? Emily Blunt, she's really great. She's always great. I think especially in this movie. I mean, her husband's the director, and clearly they have some kind of communication with each other where she has some really good performances. I think Cillian Murphy is really solid here. He's always an actor that I always like to see. I don't think he always gets material that serves him really well, but I don't know. I like Cillian Murphy. He's a cool guy. I think the actress who plays the daughter, who turns out she is actually deaf in real life. Like they use sign language a lot in this movie, which is really great for visual storytelling because I mean it's visual. I think she's gonna be a pretty solid actress. Like she's pretty good in this. Her face acting and her reacting to things. I think she's definitely to watch. To be real, most of the main cast in here pretty solid. The only thing is, I wish they were given like a little more character. Right, this movie's pretty fast paced. It pretty much picks up right where the last one left off. This movie's only about 90 minutes, which is pretty brisk. And I do wish this movie was like maybe an hour 50 to 2 hours because it's so brisk that we get almost no characterization. At least from the events that have happened in the first film, I wish there was a little more time to watch these characters react to the fact that something really bad happened at the end of the last. That was like a real significant loss, but we don't really get that. We're just take off running. And I do wish the movie would slow down to kind of let us into our characters' inner worlds a little bit and see how they're dealing with their whole world being flipped upside down. So that's something that I do wish they had done in this film. I'm not gonna lie either. I do think this film is kind of diminishing returns. It is sort of doing a lot of what it did in the first movie. I mean, it's just an unfortunate thing of, well, I've seen you do this already, so I'm just not gonna be quite as impressed with it as I was in like the first movie. So there is a sense of diminishing returns, and also the way this movie ends, it literally just ends. And sometimes I like that. Sometimes I like when a movie will just end like that. But in this instance, it felt abrupt. And I guess part of the reason they're doing it is they want to make more of these. But I'm not gonna lie, even though maybe they're trying to build this to a trilogy. Anytime you have a trilogy, the second movie always has a tough spot because it's not the beginning of the story and it's not the ending of a story. It's this middle spot, but you still have to find a way to make it where each installment of something feels like it could not necessarily stand on its own, but has like its own story that does feel like it comes to some kind of end, even if it's not the end of the story. So in conclusion, Quiet Place Part 2, I think, continues the strengths of the first movie. I do want them to start building their characters up a little more, but if you're looking for some really solid horror suspense, that's not too crazy, not too weird, not like some A24 stuff, I think A Quiet Place Part 2 is pretty solid. So with that, I'm going to give A Quiet Place Part 2 a 7 out of 10. If you saw this movie, leave a comment down below. I'd be really curious to know what you think. I always respond to the comments, and yeah, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.